What's up, guys? It's Hussien Jabai here of Jabai Performance, discussing unstable surfaces versus shifting our points of contact and center of gravity. Check it out. So today I want to discuss why I would not use an unstable surface for training purposes for individuals, whether it be athletes, first responders, or just general population, is I would use them more for recovery and rehab-based setting. And we're going to discuss 3 reasons why I purposely would not use an unstable surface for training purposes. So before we dig deep into the actual 3 reasons why I would not use unstable surfaces, we're going to talk about what point of contact and center of gravity is. With point of contact being the amount of limbs or the amount of surface area we're actually covering, whether it be bilateral or unilateral type training. This means 1 leg versus 2 legs. That could be single leg squat versus a standard back squat with 2 legs, single arm landmine presses versus a barbell bench press, things like this. And then a center of gravity is how far the actual training load is away from our center of gravity. So this could be, instead of a back squat, we have an overhead squat, a Zercher squat, any kind of training, whether it's doing lunges, instead of lunges with a barbell, we actually have a dumbbell on our side. Instead of 2 dumbbells, we just have 1. So we're kind of changing where that load is compared to our center of gravity, and so it's changing that stimulus, that training stimulus. So starting with number 1, which is going to be a big one, is going to be specificity. So just in case y'all didn't know, we do not compete on unstable surfaces. This means we compete on the ground, so on the floor, on the ground, on the court, on the field. These are not unstable surfaces, so why would we train on an unstable surface when that's not going to be our competitive environment? Number 2 is going to be our power output potential or strength output potential. This is going to be the amount of power, the amount of strength we're actually going to be able to exert during our training load or our training session, throughout the reps, throughout the exercises, throughout the training session. That's actually going to build toward our actual potential to exert in a competitive manner. So this could be, say we're going to do an unstable surface, typically a Bosu ball, right? Some people stand on top of a Bosu and do squats versus a back squat versus a goblet squat, a front squat, things where we're off of that unstable surface. Well, when you're actually on a Bosu, that training load is going down a ton, and then looking at the amount of power output or the amount of training stimulus to actually increase our power, the requirement is a lot higher, but on a Bosu we cannot reach that power potential. So therefore our training progression in the power and strength setting, we're not going to get the stimulus to be able to actually progress or increase our potential or our general power and strength output. And then the 3rd reason is going to be risk of injury. Anytime we're training on an unstable surface, this is going to lead to an increased risk of injury just because we have some kind of training load. If you don't have a training load, 1, that means you're just training body weight. Therefore, you're not even going to get any kind of progressive power stimulus unless you're progressing, the height of a vertical jump off the Bosu ball, whatever it might be, which is actually not a standard or really an acceptable way to train power. There's no way to get that progression, and so therefore you're going to have some kind of load on an unstable surface to see progression, but therefore the risk of injury is going to go up, so I do not recommend it. So the risk of injury on a stable surface is going to be a lot lower, but actually training in a bilateral or from a bilateral into a unilateral based training style is actually going to increase our stability, increase our balance, increase our way of being reactive to center of gravity in a less injury encouraging based environment. So when looking at training on an unstable surface versus shifting or changing our points of contact and center of gravity, I would lean toward changing our points of contact and center of gravity. This could be anything, like I said, from training from bilateral 2 legs to training to unilateral, so doing lunges, doing step-ups, doing pushing a sled where we're training legs individually. Sprints are unilateral. So that's shifting our points of contact and then center of gravity, going from a standard back squat to overhead squats, to single arm squats, to Zercher squats, and not just squats, going to more of the pressing, going towards single arm pressing, whether it's overhead, landmine presses, medicine ball throws where we're going one side at a time. Shifting those points of contact and center of gravity is going to be a whole better approach when it comes to training in not only an athletic sense, but also when you're training first responders, you're training any kind of individual where they need that physical fitness for their job. But then third, just general population. So unless you're working with someone that's recovering or you're training them in a rehab setting, I actually don't recommend doing any kind of training protocol utilizing an unstable surface.